Okay, welcome everybody to our webinar. This is part one of webinar 4 on Saturday. And the date today is the 27th of February. All right, our topic is about accent and pronunciation. We're going to be looking a little bit about accent and pronunciation, looking at this topic. We're going to learn a little bit about ELF, not too much because Tarsila already covered that. And we're going to try some pronunciation activities. So I'll let you read this quietly yourself. Okay. So basically everyone has an accent. My accent is somewhere between British and American. I say tomato instead of tomato, which sounds really weird to me. I say my aunt and uncle when I talk about my family, whereas in Britain, most people would say aunt, my aunt. That doesn't sound natural to me. Okay. As you know, we have lots of different accents around the world, right? And we'll think about that in a moment. Pronunciation is just the act of producing the sounds, making a sound or a r sound, a r in English. Where am I from? I'm a bit mixed. I have a British passport, but I lived in America for a long time. I went to high school in America, and I lived in other countries because my father traveled a lot for work. So we traveled with him. And then I went to university in Scotland. Very few people can tell that I have background from Scotland. Sometimes people can hear it. So people usually think, where are you from? Americans know I'm not American, and British people think I'm not British. It's quite hard to put my accent in a box. Okay. So accent, we all have different kinds. And when I teach English, I just teach what I say, and I show the students the other type. I say laboratory like a British person, but I say ant and tomato. But I show the students that we can say tomato, aunt, and laboratory if you're in America. Okay, so what is your accent in Portuguese? Can you pop the answer in the chat quickly? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's true. I have a mixed accent, Elias. Mm-hmm. See, it's fascinating that, even though you all speak Portuguese, you all speak Portuguese differently from each other. It's fantastic. Ah, Scottish teacher, yes. Mm-hmm. Great. So there are loads of different accents in this country. We have different accents in the south, in the north, in Scotland, in Wales, in London. If you live here long enough, you can tell where someone comes from. You can listen and you can tell where they're from in the country. When I was at university, you could tell what schools people had come from. If there were some people who were kind of rich and went to a very expensive private school, you could actually hear which school they went to from the way they spoke English. So it becomes a kind of status symbol sometimes, accents, and that's where there's a problem. I'm a big fan of ELF, which is English as a lingua franca. So instead of trying to sound like a British person, like the Queen, okay, or like an American or an Australian or whatever, all right? The most important thing is that people can understand you easily and that you can communicate easily with other people using English, okay? For every one person who speaks English as a native speaker, there are about 5 people who speak English as a second language. Okay, so the native speaker, we are a tiny number now because of all the people around the world who use English, you know, for science, in medicine, at conferences. Pilots speak English, right, when they're flying an airplane, or landing an airplane. So English is a kind of international language, but the number of people who were born in an English-speaking country and grew up with English-speaking parents in an English-speaking school is only 20% of the population of the world who speak English. So we're not actually very special, I think. Okay, I think it's really important to think of English as just another way of expressing yourself. It's another part of your identity. You might even have a different personality in English. Some people are different, you know, in their mother tongue, in English, in another language. We can have different personalities. All right. But that's another thing to think about. English is part of you. So part of your identity is that you can speak English. And a big part of your identity is that you are a Portuguese speaker. It might even be your mother tongue. I don't know. You might have another mother tongue. Okay. How many languages do you actually speak? Maybe English is the 3rd or 4th language that you have learned, actually, depending on where you live in the world. So I think it's important to think of all the languages as a resource, and they're all useful. And if you speak the same language as your students, in fact, you are the best model for them. I said this once before, but it was not recorded, so I will record it. Okay, you can show it to your boss. Basically, your students they do not live in an English-speaking country, and they're not going to school completely in English with English-speaking parents. So they cannot really learn English like me, because I learned it that way. Okay, but they can learn it like you. You are the best model for your students because you have learned English later as a second language or a foreign language. And you are the best model of what an English-speaking person can be like for your students. So your students shouldn't think, I want to speak English like Kristina. That's silly. And my English is weird anyway, right? America, Scotland, England, Turkey. I mean, right? I'm not a particularly good model. You're a much better model because you have learned English, possibly never going to a foreign country. Okay. Yeah, and that's something that they can do. They might never go to a foreign country, but they can learn to speak English as well as you. All right. So I think that's an important message to give to your learners, if you can. And the goal is not to sound like a so-called native speaker. The goal is to be able to use English to communicate and create relationships with people, get things done, make friends, that kind of thing. All right, any questions at this point? I don't have any particular reading about ELF, but you know, just go to Google and look it up. English as a lingua franca. Just put it into Google. There's lots of information on the internet about it. Okay, Andrea, that's the easiest thing to do, I think. So here's an example that Tarsila wrote, because I'm not a Portuguese speaker. Yeah. Marcos is having problems with the sound ch and j. The sound like chair and page. So out of all these different Brazilian accents that you've got, which one or which ones are useful for him to help him understand and practice these sounds? What do you think? Chat is like chair, with a CH sound at the beginning, as it's written there. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes, I'm not a particular expert, but these are some suggestions by Tarsila, and you're writing the same ones in the chat. Okay, because these kinds of accents, okay, have this ch and j sound. So it will be easier to show him, look, we have this sound already. It's the same sound that you're going to use in English. Okay, I don't know if you agree or not. That's nice. I'm glad you like to learn about English as a lingua franca, guys. So English, your ability to use Portuguese as a reference tool for your students is very valuable, I believe. Okay, right. So I'm wondering if we can do a little bit of work in a breakout room. Yeah, and you can speak English or Portuguese because it's maybe a more difficult subject. Maybe you want to use both languages. I don't know. It's your choice. It's your practice time. So think about the video of Tarsila talking about accent, pronunciation, and ELF, and I'm going to give you a chance to share your ideas. Okay, shall we have, what, 3 people in a breakout room? Is that good for you? 3? Yeah, okay, we'll go for 3. I'm going to try and see what I can do. Give me 1 second to make the breakout rooms. And I'm just going to try that. All right, there might be 2 people in one of the rooms. And I'll give you, how many minutes do you want? 5 minutes? 6 minutes? Tell me in the chat. 5? 5, 6, 6. Okay, I'm going to give you 6 because it can take a minute or 2 for people to get into the rooms. All right, so I'm timing for 6 minutes from now on. Have fun, guys.